Ladies and gentlemen, not long ago, Democrats tried to use the Logan Act to indict people within Trump's administration to no avail because, of course, President Trump's administration did not break the Logan Act. We'll talk about that. Hit subscribe to this channel. Nobody in Trump's administration actually stated their intent to alter U.S. foreign policy. Listen to this. Let me know in the comments section. Did Senator Chris Van Hollen state categorically that he wants to alter U.S. foreign policy? Because that's what this is about. If he's going to another country and another country has a negotiated deal, in this case, President Bukele and President Trump, El Salvador and the United States of America, it's not just domestic politics. There's also an element of international negotiations, foreign policy, international affairs. That is directly the Logan Act. That's what the Logan Act talks about. Senator Chris Van Hollen can't unilaterally go to El Salvador. It didn't work out. It was, somewhat embarrassing for him. But he cannot alter U.S. foreign policy because under 18 U.S. Code 953, which you'll see, a senator, a congressperson cannot simply go to another country and try to change and alter U.S. foreign policy. They tried to go after Trump for infinitely less to no avail. Hit subscribe, watch this.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home.
He's literally stating his intent to alter U.S. foreign policy because he's telling the world, I am going there to speak to the government of El Salvador and the Trump administration. He acknowledges in the beginning of this video that on X that he is trying to change a negotiated deal between two countries. Has nothing to do with Congress. He could introduce legislation stating that undocumented immigrants who are accused of criminal activity cannot be deported or need to be deported with lengthy due process. He can introduce legislation. So can AOC. So can Schumer and Pelosi. So can any Democrat. But the Democrats don't want to introduce legislation. They want to potentially break the Logan Act. Listen to this again.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. I hope to meet with representatives of the government. I hope to have the chance to actually see Kilmar and see what his condition is. But
the president of El Salvador stated categorically he's not going to return anyone. This is an international affairs, international relations, foreign policy issue. Once the planes left the United States of America, it no longer was a domestic discussion. It no longer had to do with U.S. legislation. It no longer had to do with federal D.C. Federal court judges. It was now part of Article 2 of the Constitution. The president is the commander-in-chief. He has broad authority in terms of implementing U.S. foreign policy. That's why President Trump is so popular. That's how you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump. You want an anti-war foreign policy. You also want, like Bernie Sanders wanted back in the day, to enforce existing immigration laws. Bernie Sanders is part of a very corrupt, insidious political machine. He exists simply to funnel left-leaning voters back into the Democratic Party so people can be impressed with Senator Van Hollen when he goes to alter U.S. foreign policy unilaterally. The issue now is the Logan Act, 18 U.S. Code 953. Any citizen of the United States, wherever you may be, without authority of the United States, directly or indirectly, commences or carries on a correspondence or intercourse with any foreign government or any office with intent to influence the measures or conduct of any foreign government or of any officer or agent thereof in relation to any disputes or controversies with the United States, or to defeat the measures of the United States, shall be fined under this title, or imprisoned not more than 3 years. He's literally stating that he's going to another country to alter U.S. foreign policy. If he's talking about domestic policy, he can introduce legislation. He's going there to try to convince the president of El Salvador, the government of El Salvador, not to abide by an executive order by the president, the current foreign policy paradigm of the president and of his administration. And this is international affairs. He's messing with international affairs and foreign policy. That's what Democrats would say if it had anything to do with Russia. But let's continue.
But we are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice. The Supreme Court has ruled 9-0, that he was illegally taken out of the country and put in a prison in El Salvador. And this is about due process. This is about.
The Supreme Court stated that Trump should facilitate his return. The Supreme Court also gave Trump the ability to use the Alien Enemies Act without a judge in D.C. deciding on what takes place in Texas, which was a huge victory for President Trump and his administration. But again, this is not domestic policy. This is the realm of foreign policy. And the Logan Act pertains directly to that. It's interesting how Democrats went after General Michael Flynn, who was the incoming national security advisor, had every right to alter U.S. foreign policy towards Russia or any country. Trump has every right to alter U.S. foreign policy. If you don't like it, Democrats or people who don't like Trump, then make sure that you have a Democrat that isn't cheated after he wins his primary like Biden, or isn't railroaded and cheated like Bernie Sanders in 2016. What Democrats did to Biden is even worse in 2024. He actually won his primary, and then he was removed because the entire planet saw, or George Clooney in Hollywood allowed us to believe our lying eyes pertaining to his cognitive abilities, or lack thereof. But let's continue.
About rule of law. What bullies do is they begin by picking on the most vulnerable. But if we get rid of the rule of law and due process in the United States, it's a short road from there to tyranny.
Typical nonsense from the Democratic Party. This senator can simply push for legislation in Congress to ensure that undocumented immigrants cannot be deported without lengthy due process. Just like they can push for legislation to fund a foreign aid package regarding all the pertaining to all the projects or humanitarian causes that USAID has helped with over the years. Okay, USAID, according to Elon Musk and Trump, unfortunately had taxpayer dollars potentially funneled to non-governmental organizations, which then made its way to the Democratic Party, potentially, which actually correlates directly to tyranny, which is what you see on the screen. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, a recap of a failed visit right here.
Our Tom HOLLEN. Now, Tom, if that is not good enough for Chris Van Hollen, who traveled to El Salvador today to check on this aggrieved prisoner, or the folks over at some of the other cable networks, then I guess they'll have proven all of our points tonight.
You mean Chris Van Hollen, the guy that didn't want to sign the Laken Riley Act that protects American citizens against illegal alien criminal gang members? Who instead of protecting Americans, his constituents, his taxpayers, he goes to El Salvador and defends an illegal alien with a deportation order that's a member of MS-13 that has been designated a terrorist organization by President Trump.
And like I've always stated when I do these segments, God bless all the good people, the wonderful, beautiful families and individuals and human beings from El Salvador, Venezuela, Mexico, the Middle East. God bless you. God bless all the undocumented and documented immigrants who want a better life in the United States of America. There are really beautiful, amazing, wonderful people from El Salvador and Venezuela and Mexico and the Middle East. Okay? Trump is not talking about these people. Holman is not talking about these people. Laura Ingraham isn't. I am not. Nobody is. There has to be some vetting process to prevent individuals who are undocumented, who potentially could commit crimes, who have criminal backgrounds. Every country does this, and we have existing laws. Now, if the senator wants to amend these existing laws, he can do so, but he can't break the Logan Act. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I think the DOJ will very likely, likely indict. Hit subscribe. Thank you.